to let me drive. This isn't going to work. You'll just get us killed.
Will you shut up for once? We're getting out of here alive, because I want to hear my song. You hear that?
Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News Anime Night, where I take a particular series solo and give my thoughts episode by episode of what I think of it. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac. I hope everybody's having an awesome day or night when you're listening to this. And once again, we dabble into Gundam 8th MS Team with episode number 5, The Broken Order to Stand By. And this was a bit of an interesting episode. But let's go ahead and get into the synopsis for it before I go in too deep. As Lieutenant Picard sits down for his lunch, ELEDORE and Mikkel return in the hover truck. Picard just tells them that some mail came for them during their mission, and ELEDORE sends Mikkel to get it. Picard tells ELEDORE that his good lunch comes from a lady friend of his named Maria, from a nearby village. And this comes from, once again, from the Gundam Fandom Wiki. I love the fact that they kind of leave out a lot of stuff in their summaries, but unfortunately they're the ones that I could actually find. So the Broken Order to Stand By, I've mentioned Lieutenant Picard, but I don't actually know what his first name is. He's kind of he's basically who I like to call Mr. Red Nose, because he's the stereotypical drunkard on the base, but he's like one of the chiefs of maintenance. So at that point, usually when I reference him in like my notes and stuff like that, I'm always calling him like Lieutenant Red Nose or whatnot. So he actually is cooking up lunch when ELEDORE and Mikkel get back to base, and they are waiting for Karen, Sanders, and Shiro to get back. And mail call happens, and so ELEDORE tells Mikkel to go and get it. And for those who don't know who I'm talking about, that is drama queen Ninorik, because he finally got his first name said in the series, and it's Mikkel. So he goes to get it, and there is a letter waiting for ELEDORE, and it's actually some good news for him, because we get quite a bit of character development for ELEDORE. Turns out he was a musician before he entered into the military, and the song that he created, Love and Peace, is actually going to be printed on media and being able to be played across the airwaves and be able to be purchased. So he's feeling like, oh, my music career is up and running. To which he initially plans to just kind of up and leave the military so that he can focus on his music career. But when they go to celebrate, it turns out that the nearby village that they go to celebrate at has been locked down by the Zeons, specifically Ina's unit, because they are actually secretly doing repairs on the Absolus after the previous episode's encounter. So at that point, ELEDORE and Mikkel, who decided to join along, get captured and have to escape and survive, hopefully until Shiro and crew can finally get there, because it actually turns out that Shiro, Karen, and Sanders were pretty close by. But that's pretty much all that happens in the episode, or at least a rough summary of it. And I gotta say, it was an interesting episode because we got some character information about ELEDORE. We actually, at the very end of it, got information about Karen, because, well, in order for them to escape, ELEDORE and Mikkel decide to commandeer a construction mobile suit to try and get out. And while they're trying to do that, ELEDORE gets severely injured and pretty much just passes out from all the combat during all of that. And that's when we find out that Karen actually is was a medical student before she got into the military. And her former, I think they said it was fiance or just her former lover, was actually an exceptional surgeon before he died in combat. And so when ELEDORE is at death's doorstep, Karen brings him back at least enough with triage so that they can get him to a field hospital, and that's pretty much how the episode ends. So it was cool being able to get character information or character details for ELEDORE as well as for Karen. That kind of came out of nowhere, and I really appreciated it. But let's go ahead and get into the notes so that I can go into overall my thoughts on the Broken Order to Standby. So obviously the first note I had was, so mail call for ELEDORE with good news. But I have questions. 1, he recorded a song. 2, he was able to get it out to a recording studio. 3, was he recording while on duty? The reason I ask these questions is because he made it sound like he had recorded this song initially while he was like on a day off or something like that. And later on, we kind of get the impression that no, he did that before he joined the military. So I was okay with it at that point. But I was really confused there going, okay, how would he have been able to do that? Because there's no way he would have had enough time off to be able to get a music recording session in. That just wouldn't have happened, and I'm guessing he has a band or something to that extent. So obviously he would have had to have done it before he enlisted into the military or was drafted. Finally learned Drama Queen's name, Mikkel. Yeah, not surprised by that name. Half the actions he's done. Yeah, Mikkel is kind of a wimpy little name, and frankly, things don't get better for Mikkel. I have no problem saying he's probably like the most disliked character I have right now in the series, like right next to Kiki. So ELEDORE is going partying while the rest of the team is unaccounted for. Yeah, not surprised by this from ELEDORE. And I really wasn't when he just basically up and says, no, I'm going to go party. And Mikkel obviously joined because he wants to go have some fun. But they do this when Shiro, Sanders, and Karen have not reported back to the base. And so I found that a little bit funny, but it technically is in character for ELEDORE to do that, so I'm not upset by it. So ELEDORE is requesting a discharge after his song is gonna be number 1. This was his words. He does realize there's a time difference with the mail, right? I was actually expecting at the end of the episode that he would get a letter later on saying that, that this isn't going to work out. But no, it never actually happened. So I'm kind of happy that I was wrong in that regard. I always do want the optimistic things to happen, but given that it's a Gundam series and it's also the military, it wouldn't have surprised me if things had gone south by the time the episode ended. But I'm glad it didn't. And captured by the Zeons the second they go to a restaurant to celebrate. Freaking called it. And yeah, I actually, as soon as they got to the village, I'm like, there's something bad is going to happen. He's going to get drunk and get in fights or whatever. And no, it was actually occupied by the Zeons. How appropriate. And of course, the next note that I have is, and it's Ina's unit. What are the freaking odds? I actually like this. I like the fact that they had the village locked down in order to repair the Absolus. It does make sense, but the plot irony or the plot convenience here was astounding. Cut to Shiro and crew, and looks like they're going to go investigate the village they were last spotted at. Hopefully with proper arms, because ELEDORE and Mikkel didn't go armed. That's kind of interesting. But at least the mobile suit pilots were ready to go and save Mikkel and ELEDORE if they needed to, because they were already missing. So Ina's crew has the entire village locked down while they repair the Absolus. Interesting and a very risky situation. And they show it very well, because the villagers are not happy that this is happening, so much so that we learn later in the episode they're in communications with Kiki, which I'm guessing her dad, Big Boss, sent her down to try and rally the villages together, hopefully to take care of the Zeon presence. So I actually did like that we had this village locked down. They actually had a nice little scene where a baby had a fever and the mom was trying to get the baby to the doctor, which is like in the next village over, and they were not willing to let anybody leave. So at that point, completely locked down. And even Ina looks at, what's his name? I think it's Norris is his name, who's kind of like her butler, but also kind of her co-pilot, so to speak. Like he's kind of her guardian. And even he was not happy about the circumstances, but even says to Ina, there's no other solution. We have to get the Absolus repaired. And technically in war, this would make sense. They would lock things down because they wouldn't want anybody to know about their big, bold new weapon. ELEDORE decided to be a smartass while being interrogated. Bold but stupid. What I'm referencing there is they're trying to get his information, and he obviously can't take torture, so he basically decides to be a smartass instead. and says, instead of doing name, rank, and serial number, he instead basically says, oh no, we're totally in this village because we want to join the glorious cause of Zeon. And of course they get thrown in I think it was the wine cellar, until they're to be executed the following morning. Both him and Mikkel. So I thought it was bold. Stupid, but it was bold. And Mikkel continues to prove himself useless by complaining about being hungry while they're being held prisoner. Yeah, Mikkel annoys me so much. I'm hungry. Well, you didn't have to come along, numbnuts. But no, you wanted a party. Dude just doesn't get where he is and what he's doing. This is where I'm starting to think that Mikkel really should be kicked out of the military. I don't know if they did a draft or anything like that, but he really is a military material. And the fact that he's constantly pining over his girlfriend and basically whining all the time. Like, he whined about the fact that he didn't get a mobile suit when they landed, and now he's whining here. It's driving me crazy. Interesting how hotel staff still want to feed ELEDORE and Mikkel, even with intimidating guards at the door and in their establishment. And I actually, so I like this moment. This is where we secretly kind of get the hint that Kiki is there, because she's all hooded. But the innkeeper comes down with like some bread and tries to, give them a little bit of hope. And then we also even get a nice little scene with Norris picking up his room key. So it's cool to be able to see things occupied, but at the same time they're maintaining composure, as if this is not the first time that this has happened. It was well done. The guy Norris that works for Aina seems kind of dodgy, even though Aina considers him honorable. I'm betting some kind of dark past he's atoning for. This, I very much got that vibe when he was talking to the hotel clerk, because it just seems like, okay, he doesn't like what they're doing, like what the Zeons are doing in the village, but at the same time, it's war. Like, that's kind of his justification. And it wouldn't surprise me if later on we find out that, like, he's committed just horrible atrocities on the battlefield, and he's trying to atone for them by doing things like guarding Aina. Gotta hand it to the Zeons. They moved most major assets out of the village to keep out of sight, aside from the one hard-to-spot Zaku that Shiro was able to spot. This was a good idea. Now, they did have tanks and stuff like that at the entrance, because I remember from the scene with the kid with a fever, but the tanks were well hidden. The only reason we knew the tanks were there was when they hit the spotlight on the mom. But when Shiro's actually looking over the village, he doesn't see any of this stuff. The only thing he notices is off in the distance a Zaku in the tree line, and I think the only reason he spotted it was because the Zaku eye was going, back and forth. So that would have been incredibly difficult to spot. So good job on Shiro for finding it, but also good job for the Zeons. They covered their tracks very, very well. Even where the Absolus is, not really any indication that it was there. So gotta hand it to them. Wait, did Karen almost kill Kiki? Wait, why'd you stop, Karen? This is when we find out that Shiro's been getting information from Kiki, and she goes up in like her hood or whatever, but Karen's in the back, and she's basically making sure that nobody like tries to sneak up on Shiro. But seriously, Karen, why'd you stop? I don't like Kiki. Why'd you stop? ELEDORE'S thinking he's useless as a soldier, as a musician, but fails to see they put him in the exact right spot in a unit, given his talents with audio. Great to character development, honestly. I actually like this moment. Basically, ELEDORE breaking down and saying, I'm not a soldier, I'm a musician, I suck on the battlefield. Why did they put me on the front lines? I have no idea. But then you look back on the previous episodes, and the unit probably wouldn't have survived as long as they have if he hadn't been able to like get on the headphones and notice all of the various noises to be able to help them out. So I found it interesting that they put a musician in probably the best position that they could have. And yeah, that was a good job on the Earth Federation's part. Probably a weird accident, but it actually worked out and turned out to be some decent character development going on for ELEDORE at this point, because this is where he breaks down and he says, like, I didn't want to fight. I ultimately want to be a musician. I want to go record this song, Love and Peace, and I want to go and get my career started. So I like that. And unfortunately, Mikkel kind of wrecks it, but we'll get there. God, I actually do feel bad for ELEDOR, considering he feels he got his big break while on duty, and because he might be executed, he feels it was all for nothing. And yeah, this was a powerful moment for ELEDOR. I liked it, but then, yeah, I'd want to kill Mikkel if he got preachy with me too. This was where Mikkel tried to raise his spirits by basically repeating what the innkeeper said, you can't lose hope and all that, and this starts up a fight between the two of them, and initially, I'm going to say Mikkel had a good idea, but then gets extremely petty once ELEDOR gets extremely petty. So ultimately, it was, I'm not going to say 10 wasted minutes, because it actually worked out in their favor, but it was tough to sit through. Mikkel's stupid moment number 5. ELEDOR didn't actually force you to come with him, but because you wanted to party with him, you're whining about bitching at him. Will somebody please kill Mikkel? Oh god, yeah, this is the preachy moment in the wine cellar where he's like, I didn't have to come here, I have a girlfriend. Gee, I hate Mikkel. I hate him so much. Ah crap, their scuffle may have actually just earned their freedom. Good lord, that's annoying. Yeah, this was the point where I'm like, hey, I'm glad you guys are going to die. And then ultimately, because of their fight, they actually knock out the guard and they're able to get out. Why does the Absolus have a Zaku head on top of it? This is something I noticed when they launched it to get out of there. Yeah, it's kind of a weird design choice. It has a little Zaku head on top. I don't know if it's just because that was the best camera that they could probably put on it. But it just seems really, really weird that the Absolus is like this big sphere, and then right at the top there's a little Zaku head. It looks very weird. Even the big Zom looked better than this. Why is Kiki in the damn cockpit again? Yeah, this is where Shiro and them step in to try and save ELEDOR, and it turns out that Kiki's back in Shiro's cockpit. Why on earth are we doing this again? It's not a good idea, and this time, she's not holding Shiro at gunpoint. So there's no reason behind it. Instead, this is just stupid. ELEDOR isn't trained in mobile suits. Interesting character flaw, but he forgets who he's with. Initially, when they get the construction mobile suit, you know, he's constantly emphasizing, like, I can't drive mobile suits. But then I was kind of thinking in my head, well, Mikkel was complaining that he didn't get a mobile suit, which means he's been trained in one. So at that point, why not just let him do it? But ultimately, that's not what happens, and I'm kind of glad that didn't happen. Good God, ELEDOR is just getting massacred. Just let Mikkel pilot the damn thing. This was a hard scene to watch, specifically when, you know, they have to keep the hatch open so they can see what they're doing, because ELEDOR can't turn on the camera for the Zakus or any Zeon tech. And that means that they can have bullets just flying in and wrecking the mobile suit from the inside, and that ends up in some serious consequences for ELEDOR because he's in the pilot seat. We actually get to see a big chunk of glass go through his leg. He gets shot in the shoulder. It's a rough scene to watch, but I loved it. I thought it was a good moment for ELEDOR. And ELEDOR passes out after his moment of badassery. This is where he took the construction mobile suit and destroyed the Zaku in front of him. It was either a Zaku or a ship or something like that, but he destroys it. Just what I've come to expect from this crew. And yeah, it was a moment of true badassery. Wow, Karen's anesthesia works wonders. Now give some to Mikkel and Kiki. In fact, overdose them, please. Basically, what I'm referring to is she clocks ELEDOR on the face so hard while she's trying to treat him that she just knocks him out in one punch. And that's what I was saying. Please, you know, hit Kiki and Mikkel, but harder. I would very much like that, please. Oh, wow. Karen was a med student, and her husband, that's right, husband, her husband was a surgeon before dying in combat. Holy shit, that's really cool character fact. And that's something that you would learn in like a character spotlight episode for Karen. And the fact that the character spotlight here was on ELEDOR, that was even more interesting because, you know, she saves him. So I really like that moment. And we even got a cute moment. I know that some people are gonna be like, oh, you misogynist piece of crap, whatever. ELEDOR's very much out of it, but they're trying to make sure that his fever breaks so that he can go to the field hospital. And he's worried that he's lost his arm. He's worried that he's lost his leg, and he's delirious. And he accidentally, and I'm going to say accidentally, cops a feel on Karen. and immediately makes a reference to it before he passes out again, going, she's, the body of a goddess or something like that. And Karen lets him have it. And frankly, this is one of those truly anime moments where they could have easily just had him clock him again, or had her clock him again. And the fact that she just let him get away with it, I thought was very touching, and was actually, that was a good character moment. Like, we could have easily taken a lot of the power of the previous scenes away if you had done the whole tsundere, I'm gonna knock him to the moon kind of deal. And I like the fact that they kept on to that. You think I'm a misogynist for it? Well, deal with it. And the hotel clerk is the one that had the hots for the red-nosed mechanic at the beginning. Funny how the episode came full circle like that. I actually did like that, when the hotel clerk named Maria actually was the one that was interested in Lieutenant Picard, or not Picard, Nickard is how you say it, Lieutenant Nickard. And so that was a nice little full circle moment so that the 8th MS team would know where to go. Shiro was way too nice with Mikkel, and by that I mean he just slapped him for him and Elidor ignoring orders. He really needs to discharge the guy. Touching moment with Elidor copying a feel on, so this is me copying a feel on Karen, but I'm a tad shocked she didn't clock him. And frankly, I'm in retrospect, I'm very happy they didn't do that, because it was a touching scene. It doesn't have to infer a crush or anything like that, but Karen, obviously, since her husband was a battlefield surgeon, like, she understands the loneliness on the battlefield. And so the fact that she just let him get away with it and walked away, that's fine. Because I'm guaranteeing you, like, one of my favorite series is MASH. I'm guaranteeing you Margaret Houlihan let that happen if it ever happened. And maybe she would have panicked if it was like a superior officer or whatever. But I'm pretty sure there were plenty of young boys that accidentally did it. They didn't mean any harm, and she probably just let them get away with it, kind of thing. Because it's a rough situation. Episode ends with Elidor looking out to an awesome shot of Karen with her mobile suit. Yeah, I love this one. And in fact, if I don't put this as the title thumbnail for the episode, I'm crazy, or I couldn't get it. I loved this, where it looks like she's getting ready to go do maintenance, but really she's just having a quiet moment while they wheel off Elidor to the field hospital. It was a beautiful shot, really well animated. So yeah, I really loved it. Overall, I'm gonna give this episode a 3 out of 5, just because of all of the nonsense we had to deal with Elidor and with Mikkel and a little bit of Kiki. But overall, it's a very powerful episode, so it kind of makes up for all the BS we had to deal with. So yeah, 3 out of 5. If I could, I'd probably do a 3.5. I couldn't do any higher than that because of all of the nonsense with Mikkel and with Kiki. But that'll go ahead and do it for this episode. So if you're watching on YouTube, thank you. I appreciate that. If you like the video, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. You can check out not just my opinion on the previous episodes of 8th MS Team, but you can also check out some of the other series that we've reviewed going on. This is the first one I'm doing solo, so you're more than welcome to also leave a comment down below of things that you would like me to take on, or me and Andrea to take on. I definitely try to get around to those and try to put them in the list if I can. And if you're listening on podcast platforms, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Player.fm, as well as Spotify. And every little bit helps, and I definitely do appreciate it. And I will see you guys next time for episode 6 of the 8th MS Team. We're officially at the halfway point. I'll see you then. Take care, my friends.